It's been about two and a half weeks since my car's been at the fab shop, and I finally got it back yesterday. I want to say this is like the last leg of anything that's fabricated that needs to be done for this car. It is a lot. It's a lot, but it looks very, very simple. Let me show you what happened with this car for the past 2 weeks. So like I said, there was a lot of work that's been done, and shout out to Forever Fabrication for building this, putting this all together. Their work ethic, their whole customer service is incredible. They were very transparent with me for the entire step of this build. Any problems that they were running into, they would have concerned me about it and let me know what was going on and gave me options of what I wanted to do. Like, I couldn't pick a better shop than them. So if you're in Minnesota and you're looking for some fab work done, go to Forever Fabrication. I'll put a link up to their page somewhere on this video, but right now, talk about all the fab work that's been done with this car. We're gonna start with the radiator. Now, I have made multiple radiator brackets for this, and I finally gave up and said, hey, can you guys make it? And they did. The same type of dimple die that they did for this front bar, and they did the exact same thing for the radiator support. And they happen to actually move the radiator up more, so now the front bumper is actually able to flow inside the radiator. Now it doesn't have like any type of real gaps that wasn't cut from this bumper. It looks really, really good. I wish I can back up a little bit more so you guys can see it, but it looks extremely good. First thing inside the engine bay, one thing that's like will grab your attention is this intake design. Now, this was not my idea. This was their idea. They told me about it, and I was immediately hooked onto it. What I originally wanted was just the intake pipe just to come from here and then off to this corner. And they said, hey, you know, you got this space, we want to try something. Let me know if you want to do it. They explained it to me, and I was like, oh, hell yeah, like, we got to do it. The original idea was to get these pipes bent underneath, like right underneath the intercooler for these air filters, but just because of the limitations of the engine bay, we couldn't do it. So we ended up going with this, and to be honest, I like this a lot more than the original idea. You can see everything. We have two HKS air filters, which is ironic because the only reason why we even chose these air filters, this is my old HKS filter that I bought when I was building my Celica GT4 back when I was like maybe 18 or 19, so this is pretty old, and I kept it for all this time. Ended up putting it on this S2000. Then when I started to build it, obviously I took it off, and I just held on to it, and I'm glad I did, because when they were making intake system, they didn't have anything to base it off of besides this air filter. So they grabbed this air filter out the car and then mocked it up, and they realized that it would fit on this side for the most part. Try to mock up this air filter. The dimensions was okay, but it was coming into contact with with this bar and also the hood. So we ended up rushing these two smaller air filters to get everything to fit, and we never would have known that this would have been like the perfect application for these filters if it wasn't for this. You know, if we didn't have this, we never would have got these two 4-inch HKS filters that goes into a wide pipe. That's a 3-inch that goes into a 4-inch for the turbo. Really good, unique design, good way to fill up the engine bay. Also really good way to get air. So we're gonna have air coming in from here, and then also air coming in from the underside too. Probably gonna make some ducting for each side. I'm gonna try to utilize this portion of the front bumper, even though it's gonna be blowing air for these coolers, but I'm gonna try to make some ducting up here so it can go off. We can get some really good cool air. I feel like this is a really good eye catcher. Like, I'm so happy we went with this route. I'm so happy we was able to actually do this. Now, if you remember, I made a video about making a bracket for the oil catch can, the overflow tank. When they seen the bracket was okay. I really thought I put my heart and soul into that bracket, but when they seen it, they decided to make something better, which by doing that, was able to make clearance for one of the intakes for the intercooler. So when I made this bracket, I made one bracket that was able to mount both of these, and now they made two different brackets and was able to box both of these off and actually push both of these back so I can get the clearance that I needed, and also make room for my oil lines that I plan on making. But they was able to make all this stuff work and still keep it really clean. This looks way better than what I did, and I appreciate it, but damn man, I really worked on that bracket. So moving on to the hot side of the intercooler pipes, we have a tile blow-off valve. I believe this is I want to say a 50 millimeter blow-off valve. I got like the biggest one that with the heaviest spring, just because the amount of power I want to be making. Once again, they were very transparent. They actually told me how it can be mounted and gave me choices on how to mount it, and I ended up going with the sideways. We could have mounted this straight up or at the bottom, but I believe this was like a really good middle ground. If I wanted to mount this underneath, I would have been running into problems with the alternator. Nothing like too serious running into problems with this. I just would have had to do extra steps in order to take this off or replace it when need be. And with all these pipings, I have vibrate clamps on this, and to be honest, I wasn't thinking about getting vibrate clamps, but after being told about it and explained what they can do and how they work, I freaking love it. Way better than silicone hoses, but they are super expensive. I think like one clamp kit was like 200 bucks, but what you get from it is insane. So like these have like a little bit of flex in them. I don't know if you can see the flex in it, but these have a little bit of flex in it, so these pipes can move. And also, I don't know if anybody's seen videos, but the silicone hoses, when they're under pressure, they start to swell. And if you ever had silicone hoses that actually blew off from just the pure pressure, it's a bad day. It's not the end of the world with that. It's just stuff that you don't want to happen to you. And then when it comes to the throttle body, we had two choices. One, we either weld a vibrant clamp to it or get these adapter kit. We ended up buying this adapter kit and just was able to bolt on to the throttle body without having to do any type of welding with this. So this saved us time and also just ease of use of taking this off too. These HD clamps are really easy to take off. All you gotta do is push this pin, flick this up, and then it comes right off. Clamp comes off, actually able to take off this piping. This takes no tools. Like, you don't need anything besides your hands to take this off. I recommend using two hands instead of one hand, but like, it's really easy to take off. Now moving on to the cold side intercooler piping. Now I want to believe that this was kind of challenging for them to do, mainly because I was trying to have something different, but just because of the limitations how the turbo sits, I couldn't do exactly what I wanted with this one. I originally wanted the intercooler piping to be just from like right here to right here, but because cold side is on the right side, couldn't like make the bend to get it correctly. I had to make like a awkward S to get this to fit. I thought this was gonna be an issue with getting access to like my water pump. You can see my hand touching it from right here. Really good space to it, and I'm also able to get my lines when I start making them over there. Now moving on to the turbo placement. This was my choice. They asked me where I wanted the turbo to sit, and I wanted it to be right here. Really surprised on how they was able to mount this and get everything set up. To be honest, I didn't think they was gonna be able to do it just because of the limitations of like the engine bay and just how cramped everything can be once you start adding stuff to it. I was really surprised. There's one thing I gotta do, which is add a bolt for the flange, because I did not bring any hardware. I did not bring that much hardware when it came to putting all this stuff together. Now going off the turbo to the turbo manifold, you can see how much space I got. Now if you remember, I made another video explaining the manifold that I got when I bought the turbo. And that manifold was not able to fit my application because it was for an RX-7. Go figure. So I ended up selling that manifold, and Forever Fabrication ended up making this manifold from scratch besides flange that goes to the engine. I was actually shocked on if they were able to do it, because with the original manifold that I bought, I thought I didn't have any space. I thought I was going to have to do the exact same thing that the RX-8 owners do when they turbo their cars, which is have the turbo like smack dab in front of the engine and have all the piping and stuff like that kind of work around it. Kind of blurry, but I don't know if you can see that cap or not. But that cap is for one of the EGTs that I got for each runner. You have one right on the front rotor, and then I can't find the rear rotor cap right now, but it is back there. Oh, I see it. Looking at the EGT probes, I thought I wasn't gonna have enough length to actually run them inside the car. And I thought I was going to have to put the amplifier inside the engine bay and mount it up that way. The pros that I got was the longest ones that you can get that's like pre-made. And they were actually able to run from the engine all the way inside the car. I just have to drill a hole through the firewall and get like a rubber grommet so I can make all that stuff work. My plate the way it is without having to like make another one. Good thing on that. Last thing is the downpipe. Same thing with the manifold. I did not think they were actually able to make all this stuff fit, especially with that boost controller sitting right there. And if you notice, there's no wideband sensor bung. That's because it's underneath the car, close to the rest of the catback exhaust. Good thing that my wideband sensor, it's already over here. And I believe the other part of this connector will actually stretch all the way to the bung at the bottom. And you can see the rest of the downpipe has a flex pipe as well that connects to my old exhaust system. All right, I was thinking about having a resonator somewhere along this system, but when I looked underneath and I took a look at this resonator, which is pretty huge, I decided not to keep it. I do plan on getting another exhaust, but hopefully get something about this same size of a resonator just to try to quiet it down. I know it's going to be loud, but I don't know how loud this exhaust is going to make it, but I really would like a very modest sound coming from this. That's it. That's all the fabrication work. The last of it that I would need to actually take it to a shop to get it to start. I've been on this thing for like since yesterday, since I got the car back, and I just love how it looks. I'm still looking at it right now because it looks like a complete car. It looks like something that looks like it's ready to drive. It's not yet. I still need fueling and plumbing and stuff like that, but it's getting there. This is like proof that, you know, I'm working on something and it's not just an idea anymore. Actually coming into like reality. You can just look at it. It just looks freaking incredible, and everything is still easy to get to. If I need to replace our serpentine belt, I really don't have to take anything off besides the alternator, or just at least loosen up the alternator, which the bolt's right here. I can easily get like a ratchet behind that and get access to it. The only thing I can see that might be a problem is getting to this water pump, and that's not even a big issue because all I have to do is just take both of these clamps off on each side for the cool side, and I'll have access to the water pump. Like really easy. Like maintenance is going to be such a breeze. There's one thing I will have to get underneath the car to do, and that's just to drain the oil. This stuff is still really easy to work on. I'm trying to make this like a technician's dream when it comes to working on this car and just make it really simple. I do plan on doing some more wiring in the upcoming week, so stay tuned for that. At least now you get to see what's going to happen the next few months if I keep pushing the way I am right now.